All right. Hi, and welcome everyone to our, I guess, tri-weekly, if I'm not mistaken, community calls. And today is kind of exciting because it's the first community call since we announced the ceramic clay testnet. So we'll dive into that a little bit more. And you might notice that we're a little bit kind of not the usual people here from the ceramic team, and the main reason for that is there's just like a lot of stuff going on right now at Denver, and hopefully like next community call there will be like a bunch of exciting things to look at from the hackers there. But yeah, the main thing that happened since last time is that we released the clay testnet. So clay testnet is kind of like a, well, it's kind of like the preview of what the mainnet of ceramic will be, and like all of kind of the main tooling and the way you interact with ceramic is there. And we also run like a ceramic node that you can use for testing on 3box Labs infra. And so that's really cool. And we've already seen like a bunch of kind of people playing around with it and building some interesting stuff. Oh, and I guess another announcement is that so ceramic has been developed by 3box, the company 3box, and previously we were doing a product called 3box JS, and we also announced that 3box is now 3box Labs, and our main focus is now on like actually building out the ceramic network. And all of the kind of profile data and stuff that has been living in 3box.js will be migrated over to IDX, which is kind of the next version of 3box. All right, so I'll kind of stop there, and I would love to kind of get like maybe some intros from people that are here the first time, or just generally like what brings you to this call and taking interest in ceramic. Maybe you can start with someone on the team. So Spencer, do you have some updates that you want to share?
Got it. Yeah, it's hard to even keep track. There's been so much going on lately. I think I was just looking through the tickets. I mean, the main thing was getting the testnet out the door for sure. I think most of what we've been focused on the team has been testing and bug fixing and stabilizing the release. So I don't think there's been as many like major new features in the last couple of weeks. It's mostly been sort of locking down, batting down the hatches for the testnet. I'm trying to think. I'm looking through here. What else? There wasn't really that much besides just lots of bug fixes. Can you think of anything that I'm?
There was definitely a lot of bug fixes just before we made the release of Clay, and then I think we've mostly been like focused on like just minor things, and then like picking out work for like making the network more stable in general. But the main development work has kind of shifted to like making sure the infra and stuff is like more stable.
Yeah, the big thing we're working on right now on the core protocol is we're doing a pretty big just like refactoring of the code base with an eye towards better like memory utilization and like better caching behavior to make it so that you can have a large number of documents pinned, and so that you're always subscribing to updates to those documents without having to keep all those documents in memory all the time and have a really large memory footprint. So that's sort of a pretty big cross-cutting. It's our first sort of major rethinking of the internal architecture. That's a big project that we'll probably be working on for the next month or two. And there might be some small changes to the developer API that come out of that to make it easier to like subscribe to updates in your application and like use some more reactive techniques to receive updates when changes happen. That's the big thing we're working on right now.
Yeah, that's exciting. That'll basically allow you to kind of run a ceramic node and like have a huge amount of documents that are pinned and kept track of. So that's something that's going to be quite important. Paul, maybe you have an update since the last community call.
Yeah, not much specific to IDX. I guess it's been mostly about keeping track of the updates in Ceramic and the rest of the stack. So updating, like also making updates to 3D Connect and our different demos and tutorials to use the latest version of Ceramic with clay enhancements. But other than that, I think yeah, IDX has been pretty much the same over the past few weeks.
Yeah, I played around with the web playground to build like a demo for a workshop on at Denver, and it was just like super nice to just way to get started with ceramic to just like pull that and like do some stuff, and it's like you have like an app that's like working with ceramic, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool to have something that includes all the stack at once, so it's easy to see how the pieces fit together and start playing with them. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Zach, do you want to talk about some of the stuff you've been doing with the 3D Connect and like migrating 3-box profiles over to IDX?
Yep. Yeah. So like everyone else said too, well, besides that, like we finally have the infra to support 3D Connect as well, and that's stable out with the testnet now. So you can actually use 3D Connect, and it uses one of our hosted nodes. So all the DID documents that are getting created in Ceramic are being hosted there. And then when you're connecting to those nodes, your daemons, you're able to resolve those docs, to verify stuff and use that. So that's working now, as well as the gateway, and that's quite stable. And as Joel said, yeah, we're working now on how we can migrate DIDs that you may have used in 3-box before with 3box.js. Now working on migration that allows you to have those in Ceramic as well as migrate like your core profile data over, as well as your account links to Twitter, GitHub, those kind of things. So that's going to actually happen in 3D Connect after. So if you'd used 3box before, once you first use 3D Connect again in a Ceramic context, you just will use that same DID, and that'll be migrated over. And yeah, we'll have that ready soon.
Yeah, so that's pretty nice. Like the first time you use the Ceramic app, like your data will just like automatically be taken from 3box into IDX, and that will be like happen in the background. So it's pretty seamless for users. Cool. Well, hello to everyone that jumped on later. Actually, so I see that there's a few people here that definitely have done like a bunch of interesting and cool work on Ceramic. Like any updates from anyone here on the call on like stuff they've been building or hacking on?
Yeah, sure. I can talk a little bit, I guess. I'm Shane, and me and my coworker Zach worked on a little IDE for Ceramic called Document, and what it lets you do is just like view, edit, and create documents on top of Ceramic. Mind if I share my screen for like a second?
Sure, yeah, that would be super cool.
Okay. There you go, you see my screen.
Yep, all clear.
Cool. Yeah, so this is like document. So what it is a little IDE to let you kind of like explore and edit documents within Ceramic. So just takes the document ID and pulls it up. It also has like the 3ID Connect, which lets you kind of log in there, and if you click on it, you can like manage your profile and stuff. And then once you're like logged in, if you own this particular document, you can edit it. And it also like pulls in the JSON schema and gives you like all of the autocomplete for a schema if it's available. There's like so much here, but I don't want to take up too much time on the call, but I just wanted to kind of hop on and say like how much fun we had playing around with Ceramic, and like we're like big fans of JSON schema. We actually built a lot of JSON schema tools for some of our other projects, so like very familiar with it. So we're just happy to kind of be in the community and kind of contribute a tool like this back to like a great network. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is super cool. So I also like that you can kind of go through the commit history and like look at previous versions. That's like a super nice feature.
So like you can go like to the beginning of time here where it was like empty, and then I just added my image, and then I just added my name, right? And this is like kept adding everything onto it. So yeah, like it's just awesome to be able to use the network to its fullest.
Yeah, so this is pretty nice for like inspecting. Do you imagine it's also being used to like, you know, create documents or like do
yeah, for sure. So
definitions?
if I just refresh here, if you basically don't put a document ID in, you can start creating them. And then you can hit save. And then, yeah, just like creates one. Now you got like an ID. And if you just do one with the $sign schema in it, you just get all kinds of insane auto completions. So now I get auto completion for JSON schema. So I can say type object, type object, properties, food, type string. That's all good. So I get this, and then if I make a new document, I can use that as the schema. So if I just put the document in here, this is the picker to pick like a particular version for the schema. And then you come in here, you get the autocomplete for the JSON schema that you entered there, which is like, and like if I put like 1, it knows it should be like a string, it knows it should be a string, not a number.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy. And then if I try to save it, then this is just like from Ceramic daemon gives me this error. So yeah, so I didn't want to take up too much time there. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, I mean, so I mean the JSON, like the tool for like auto-completion when you create the JSON schema, like I want that right now. Like that's been like a pain point for me, like creating JSON schemas is like annoying for me. So like that seems super useful. Like just have it work. Like, I mean, this seems like a super great tool for like developers that are like, you know, starting to create definitions for their users in IDX and stuff like that. So yeah, where do you actually see this? Like, where would you like, if you continue to work on this, like where would you take this?
Yeah, so there's like lots of great directions. Like first would be at the very least, it would be nice to be able to like extend this. Like these are all like individual windows you can kind of like move around and resize and stuff. But it would be nice to let maybe there'll be like some sort of way to extend it to put your own in there, which kind of like opens up a lot of stuff. Like there's that like JSON schema form library, right? Like maybe that's one of the windows as well. And if there's like a custom one for maybe your like particular little app that you want to write and you want to prototype it in there, like a little notes app and show the notes properly or something. I don't know. So that's like one direction. Just like, yeah, more editing and saving features would be good. Yeah, it's like kind of, yeah, there's like so much that I want to do with Ceramic Network. It's hard to narrow down all the, like, yeah, but yeah, so ideally trying to like extend it and yeah, just keep it like keep it up with the Ceramic Network. Like some of the stuff we looked into was like the multiple signing and that, but that's not like in Ceramic Network yet. But that would be really cool to dive into and figure out how to get like a dev tool working for that too.
Yeah. All right, this is super cool. Any other questions for Shane?
Cool.
Hello, Shane.
Hey.
Hey, great product and great demo, by the way. I was curious about how much time, like how many people were working on it and how much time took you to create it.
Yeah, so
Sounds
two
fun.
of us, me and my coworker Zach, and yeah, we've been working on it for the last week. Oh, you're muted now.
So 1 week.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, like I said, we've had a lot of experience with JSON schema, and if you've seen like some of our other projects like OpenRPC and SIG tools and some other projects in the crypto space that use like heavily use Monaco and JSON schema.
What are some of the kind of use cases that you've like encountered for JSON schema, or like in projects? Like how have you been using them before?
Yeah, so in OpenRPC, which is OpenRPC is it is a fork of OpenAPI to and stripped down to only work for JSON RPC. And that makes heavy use of JSON schema to define your types and stuff for methods. And we also have JSON-schema.tools, which is a playground for JSON schema, so that you can do similar stuff where you can like, edit a JSON document and also its schema. And we also have like our own validate JSON schema validator because we're not super happy with AJV. It doesn't handle circular references that well. It also includes the YAML, the whole like YAML language.
Yeah, the dependency is pretty huge. Maybe
Yeah.
we should use your implementation in Ceramic.
Yeah, so yeah, just lots of JSON schema, lots of Monaco as well. A lot of our tools that we have, like we have a playground where you can make JSON RPC requests, and that makes heavy use of Monaco, and yeah, so yeah, just kind of like all came together with Ceramic using JSON schema and just kind of all clicked for us. So, I mean, like it probably needs a little bit more work to get like super production ready, because a week's like pretty short amount of time for something like this. But yeah, just gonna slowly get it into production state.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for demoing that. I think everyone enjoyed that.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the time.
Anyone else have any like stuff they've been working on that they want to show off?
Yeah, hey, this is Izzy. Oak Sprout and I made a hack called Tiles, and it's basically like an indexer for ceramic documents that lets you browse recently indexed documents and just kind of open them. It's definitely not as full featured as what we just saw, but I think there's actually quite a bit of possibility for interplay between the two. I think we're just trying to fix the indexing service right now, but I can show you guys what it looks like if you want to see.
Yeah, I've already seen it. It's kind of cool.
So this is basically what it looks like when you open it. So as you can see, like the indexer went down a little bit ago, and we need to bring it back up. I think sometimes it finds like JSON in the or malformed JSON in the event log that we're not parsing correctly. But basically, this auto updates if it's working correctly. You have pagination, and then you can open a document. It should work. I don't know why it's taking so long. Sometimes it, okay. Oh, it's a big document, that's why. And then just see what's in it. And then the thing that also works is, so you can see here, there's like a schema. So you can look up the document, throw that in, and open that quickly. So actually it'd be pretty cool if we could put like a little button here that says edit or copy this schema in document. That'd be pretty neat, I think.
Yeah, I was interested in the document that you found. It was like said, I'm a fungi or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised by like how neatly this was, and I just like started using it directly for like looking at documents. Like, oh, what does this? I was like doing something else, like, oh shit, I need to know what this document contains, and I was like, use this because it's so convenient.
That's great to hear. It's awesome to hear that it's immediately useful. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that we can do to improve it. You know, better parsing of the documents, making sure that the indexer doesn't fail if it finds something it's not expecting. In the beginning, we were also trying to think of a way to make it work decentralized. So basically, you could have really light clients that are running, and then they're adding to the index as they're encountering events being issued by the pub sub. But we thought for the hackathon that probably wouldn't work because you would have to have some sort of client running on the whole time. So we just went with a centralized approach for now. But eventually you should be able to sit for that. I think that'd be pretty neat.
Yeah, very nice. So what would be like the next thing you would add to this?
I think one of the immediately useful things would kind of be a commit history, like the guys at document showed. And then like the ability to linkify things as you're seeing them. So we saw the case where I saw a document ID within another document, and then I had to copy it, paste it in the search box. But it'd be easier if you could just click the link and it could take you to that. Or even better, you could do some sort of indexing of all the indexes that you have, of all the document IDs that you have, and do a little bit of smart categorization or tagging behind the scenes and show like, hey, if I want to search by schema, what document IDs are leveraging a certain schema? Or if I want to look for document IDs that are kind of doing a certain thing, to do that.
Maybe I could just jump in a little bit as well. This is Oak Sprout. I think something which would be pretty cool to look at would be sort of deterministic UIs. So actually like fleshing out UIs based on different, on what we find in the document to make them easier to read. Don't don't know exactly how that would work yet, but it's something I've been involved with in the past, and I think Ceramic's pretty great for it based on how closely tied everything is to schemas. So that's something that would be pretty cool to investigate as well.
Yeah, what would that be for? Like like fill in data based on schemas or something different?
Not so much filling in data, not so much writing as much as reading. So for example, I think there's a lot of potential to build UIs around different schemas such that, for example, if there's we know there's a note schema, we can present something in a particular way, like a note should be presented, or if something's a blog, it's a blog schema, we can present it like that as well. And so that could work pretty well with what we built so far. It would just, make the document look different when you actually look it up.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One kind of small thing that I thought about also was like, when you see like a DAD, like actually look up its basic profile and display it. So you can like, when you're like clicking through documents, you see like, oh, this was made by this, profile. I think there's like a huge amount of like small things like that that would make something like this like very like rewarding to browse in. So yeah, I think this is super cool.
Just to clarify, do you mean that whenever you see like a DID link like that, you can just immediately click it and then you get taken to explore it?
Yeah, I mean that could be one thing. So you like click it, then you get to its IDX or something, IDX document. Or like when you see a document and it was created by a specific DAD, instead of just showing the DAD that created, you could also display like the image and the name of that user.
I see. Okay, yeah, nice.
Well, any other questions for on this Explorer by Isis and Oxford?
It's just so cool.
All right, awesome. Anyone else have anything to like show off, or maybe just like some project they're thinking about, or anything else?
Well, actually, if I might chime in, I have no right to participate in the hackathon because, well, obviously conflicts of interest and stuff like that. But like last weekend before long story short, I spent 2 weeks trying to unsubscribe from one, well, quite notorious email list, still to no avail. And I thought that DID might be a way to allow a website to send you some sort of notifications without revealing your email, like totally. So, well, I made this thing. Well, I mean, if I may, if like I have your permission, Joel.
Yeah, I mean, this is the community call, so anything goes.
So, like the first thing a person has to kind of provide to verify that he or she owns an email. Obviously, that's partly, at least partly, centralized. But then, well, hold on, I'm just creating a fresh Ceramic account. Then that verification with email data is stored in IDX, encrypted, so that only the notification service and the ID itself, the person itself, could decrypt it. So like after the verification is done, like awaits confirmation, let's assume that it's an email link. I've just clicked on it. We attach it to the ID, and well, then it's stored in a personal vault that's shared just between this the ID notify and this the ID, and then on like any other website that supports it, go authenticate with your DID, go there, and well, assuming it's a website, say Rarible, who decides to say that your precious art was just sold for $1 gazillion. Oh,
How much is a gazillion?
Too much. Well, and then
1,000 bazillion.
how do you share the whole screen? Yeah, for a sec. Yeah. So I'm now gazillionaire. The beauty of it is that the website, be it Rarible or I don't know, Boardroom or whatever, is not exposed to my email. So if it's hacked, my email is still secure. My email is still intact. And other beauty of IDX, if this thing is ever hacked, the villain gets nothing, because this thing doesn't store email. Also, it gets it from IDX, which is like stored by private keys, which are expected to never be stolen. Anyway, there is no like hotspot for data breaches.
Cool.
Cool.
I mean, this is super cool. So basically, it sees like a service that like you subscribe to like one of them, and then like any app you go to can just like send a message, and that will notify you through the email.
Yeah.
Knowing the email.
Another thing that, well, IDX is like your data vault that you bring with yourself whenever you go. It's quite possible that adding an email for notifications could be done securely without leaving the target website. Say Rarible, they don't have notifications. Right, while they kind of migrate to Ceramic, it's one more, not even pop-up, but like one more form to display and one more form to fill. Like put your email here, and we will never have access to it because it's well stored in your IDX. And well, even if something happens to us, to Rarible, well, you're safe.
Yeah, this is awesome. Like, there's so many use cases. Like, and I think this seems like a thing that's like needed in basically like all dApps. So I didn't know you were working on this. This is amazing. So
yeah.
Can you actually like, is it easy right now in how it's architected to like, you know, right now you sign up with like one service, but like, is it easy to like, then later select a different service that does the same thing without that causing any problem for the apps?
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess at some point this could be added to self ID or something like ID management. You remove an entry from IDX or remove a recipient for decryption and add a new one. Like encrypt to some other service that you migrate to, and you're done.
So you basically like specify in the IDX record, like I'm using this service. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And the service has like a DID as well, I guess. So you just like encrypt it to their DID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Neat. All right. Yeah, this is amazing. Like, this is something that like Danny is not on here anymore, but he's been like asking for this for like so long. Like, oh, we need this, we need this, we need this, and like, oh, yeah, later. But okay, you guys built it. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, I even bought a domain for it like half a year ago.
Oh. Amazing. Cool. Well, thanks for showing that. Anyone else have any questions for Sergey? All right. Well, that was nice. We've seen 3 cool projects. Anyone else have something to show off, or happy to just like discuss like potential projects as well?
Well, maybe I'll just fill the silence since no one is talking. I mentioned that a few times, so excuse if this is redundant for a couple of you guys. So I've been trying to coordinate a couple of groups for a useful taxonomy. So I'm working with the Ethereum Foundation on their idea of creating a portable KYC right now, and then I'm also a board member at Open Travel, and we're trying to append the XML standards for travel passenger exchange to include a useful implementation for biometric data. We already have an investment in that space. We're mostly VC here. So the point of the taxonomy is pretty simple. Right now, there's a lot of different verbiage in all of those GitHub repositories and white papers. And it's conflicting with the real world. What I mean by that, so what is in a legal sense an authentication and attribution and agency, an authorization and credential and so forth, those are very specific legal terms. So the context here is if and where you onboard identity, quote unquote, and it's really not identity, it's agency and attribution. If you conflate those terms, it's very difficult to create viable technologies that doesn't conflict with existing laws, right? So the larger point there is, I started working on a framework to just describe the problem statement, break it out. And so now I'm starting to define all the taxonomy, all the verbiage within there so that we have a clear understanding of where let's call it the coding level crosses over into the legal level. Because at the end of the day, it's kind of binary in the sense of either I can deliver on everything that I need to do with my software on the code level, right? This worked well if I just have digitally native things. If I send you a Bitcoin and I expect a CryptoKitty back, then this is fairly well regulated by code. But if and where I expect a real world item, then at some point in time, if something goes wrong, I actually need to provide the necessary quote unquote evidence to the local authorities to then get my real world kitty. So long story short, I'm going to share like the beginnings of our taxonomy there so that you guys can chime in and can tell me where it's useful and where you see things differently, or whoever wants to work with me on that, because I've been kind of pushing this off for years at this point in time. We did due diligence on 146 quote unquote identity projects over the last 5 years, and all of them fall short in that regards. They all won't stand up once they hit reality, once they hit, let's say, a biometric implementation at your airport, right? At that point in time, it ends up being no longer useful, right? And there's only going to be so many credentialing, quote unquote, that you would want to do.
Cool.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
You talked a little bit about this. I think it was last community call. What project progress have you made since then?
So I refined the problem statement for portable KYC. I can share this after or I'll share that in the chat later. I want to make a few minor changes to it and provide the list of terms that we're trying to define. The larger point here is it's important to understand that a lot of coders are trying to comply with kind of the legacy laws, such as KYC, but a lot of times these are actually a result of the legacy technology. So specifically, like the current Dragnet approach of KYC is really a result of databases being maintained by financial service providers, right? Because that's the only way that you can manage this in this particular context. They already do KYC at account opening. That's actually not necessary, right? From a larger perspective, if you look at your last 100 transactions or last 1,000 transactions you did with your checking account, quote unquote, you'll find out there was no need to attach PID to that. You could have done this with cash and was uncritically, but it's consistently done, right? In an essence, it's a violation of your privacy. It's a violation of search and seizure, but it was tolerated because the technology wasn't available to do it in a different way. So really, it should only be done if and where the transaction causes kind of a red flag to come up, not at account opening, right? There's no reason to create accounts. In my mind, the idea of decentralized software systems is to not have accounts. Does it make sense, or is this?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of really the approach we've been trying to get at with IDX and like how we use DIDs. Like anyone can create like these DIDs and like they're not really necessarily have any like real person behind it. It could be like, you know, use a pseudonym that you use. One person could have multiple in different contexts, but it's really like just the abstract thing that allows you to build up reputation and build up like information about that alias or what you would call
it. See what you just did. You just struggled with like the naming. That's exactly what I'm trying to get to. So we need to build I call it an onion. So we need to create an onion that shows, okay, this is the agency layer, this is the attribution layer, and I started mapping something out a long time ago. This is what is the persona, this is what a profile is, this is what attestation is, and this is where I need to kind of create something for the real world, for meat space at some point in time, right? So at some point in time, you will always run into the situation where you need to deliver something to meat space that you can quote unquote enforce there, right?
So does it make sense that like at the core of the onion is really kind of just the pseudonym, like that just like that can be like the core identifier? Do you see that as something like different?
Yeah, I'm not really comfortable with that term identifier because it's kind of from the outward in.
Yeah, I meant the word pseudonym.
What is it called?
Pseudonym.
Can you like send this to me or something? Because
I'll send it in the chat.
Pseudonym. Okay, awesome. Yeah, no, it's probably not the right term for it. Honestly, and I've mentioned this in every single call of this kind that I've been part of, actually, we should not use the term identity in this context. This is not what this is about, right? What I mean by that, identity requires consciousness. So it requires reflection. What the technologies are about is all about agency and attribution, as in, did you want to initiate a certain transaction and did you have agency and can I attribute this to you? Right? Because generally speaking, it's about either the
well, it's not really just about agency, right? It's about sovereignty in the choice that you make, because you can have agency without like the sovereignty to like, you know, make that choice on your own.
No, I'm using it in a very legal sense, as in I actually wanted to do that. You're responsible in that sense, right? And also you acted with free will. It's kind of the opposite of I'm driving a car, drive over you, I do it on purpose, or I didn't see. right? So yeah, I had agency there, but I didn't have the intention to do that. So it's very nuanced, and that's exactly what I'm trying to write out, right? Because if you don't do this, it's very hard to actually code these prerequisites into into code, into software, right? If you already don't have it correct on the semantic level. I'm not claiming that I have the correct definition at all. Objective is simply to create the entire taxonomy as much as we can to address that.
Is the goal to kind of create something that, you know, developers can like use
Yes.
reference and then like get a better sense of like how to kind of legally
correct. Exactly that. Exactly that. So that we stop conflating these things. And you see this all, I read one of these documents every single day where things are conflated and confused between what is identification, what is identity, what is a persona, what is a profile, what is authorization versus verification, and so forth, right? So those are very nuanced terms that have really a real world effects if and when something doesn't go right in code, right? And it will only be useful if we get it correct in this nuanced way. And so when we invested in a company that was looking at the standard, and they recommended that I look at this as one of the more useful ideas to get this right, because I've been looking at these standards for a very long time. So I tried to build my own like profile parser system 20 years ago. And that was just stupid XML. I don't really call this coding, but the problem is the real world is still using this. Right? So if you look at stuff like IATA, right? So your passenger information, those are very stupid XML standard. And the problem right now is we are starting to attach really sophisticated systems to that. So if you're landing here in LAX right now, and you're part of certain programs, they scan your face. They have a copy of your face, right? So that the biometric data of your face. Obviously, if and when this gets out and ends up in one of those databases that you're in right now, which is like 4,000 to 5,000 databases with PIDs, and they attach that to it, we are done, right? You can't reverse that at this point in time. So the point here is, if that happens, we all live in a 1984 version that George Orwell could have never dreamed of. And we are very, very close to that situation. And I'm very, very concerned about that. And so that's where this urgency is coming from, because right now I'm seeing these systems pop up everywhere. And so, as I mentioned, I'm a board member, technical board member at the Open Travel Association, and we provide the standards for travel data exchange. It's used in all hospitalities. And so I have some influence over those guys to get this quote unquote right. Anyway, so, but Paul, I would love if you have time to talk to you directly about some nuances that I simply just don't understand, because I came late to the project on IDX to see how I can interface with this and be helpful there.
Yeah, sounds good. Cool. So I guess we have like 8 minutes left. We'd love to hear anyone else that like maybe something you've been working on, maybe something you're like thinking of building, or if we don't have anything more, we can just like call it a day.
Hey Joel, Chris here.
Hey.
And my attention was a bit diverted on account of making dinner. Happy Chinese New Year, by the way. And I got a little bit from this last discussion about like taxonomy, about identity, personas, and so on. And maybe I can sort of shine a light on what my buddy Dongha and me are building, and sort of the definition of identity we get from that. And what we're building is a ceramic Ethereum Filecoin based step. And you could see it as a Web 2 to Web 3 bridge for identity. And identity in Web 2 being this, like all the data, all the platforms gather on your expressions of taste. So movie ratings, for example, in IMDb, or restaurant ratings, or rated books, and likes on social media and so on. And we convert that, we use Ceramic to sort of standardize that and load it to Filecoin, that then in the next step, we can try to like two things, like make a business model out of creating your own filter, right? Like learning your identity from this data and then creating a filter out of that, which you then can overlay again on social media, for example. And our first small app is this bookmark manager. So you can upload URLs and comment on it, right? And upvote and download them. And you can upload your rated movies from IMDb, which can do like this, and then import, and then it ends up in your list of movies, right? And the next step would be that, hey, you can actually input another DID, like your friend's DID, and then compare your list of rated movies, or you could actually use like an index of all the uploaded rated movies and find people with similar tastes to your taste in movies, right? And you can do the same with movies, restaurants, and so on, and then make it like a Tinder of like decentralized Tinder, whatever.
I guess you could do like a bunch of different things with that. Like if you like follow your friends, you can like have contextual search that's really like, you know, based on your friends' preferences as well as your preferences. And you can have like, you know, different communal preferences rather than like where you have in like Facebook and like these Google and stuff. You kind of have, it's super optimized for your individual preferences. But here you can actually build something that's like optimized for like a communal preference, which is pretty cool.
Right, yeah. So the idea is also that right now, social media, you sort of have to choose between like your own, or basically like Twitter or all these companies, they own the platform, which means they own the curation layer, right? So you cannot really choose if you want to stay in your bubble, in your own like small community, or you want like sort of the objective truth view on your feed. I think that was sort of, that was my understanding of what you just said, right? So you can choose your layer, and maybe you want like the communal one, or maybe you want like the general one, or you want the view like how Joel views the world, sort of.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can see that if I share it with you, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, but I think it's interesting because it shines a light on how Web 2 actually defines identity right now, right?
Yeah, where are some other kind of places you could take this? Because that's I guess that's just like one example, right? Like you mentioned like matching based on like your browsing history or something like that.
Yeah, I would view it from like recommendation algorithms, where there's like two basic kinds of where you compare, like first comparing different items, right, different movies, and then based on that recommend new movies to your history, right, of watch movies, rated movies, and the other one being comparing different people, right, and saying, hey, Joel has actually like 90% of the same ratings on like the last 10 movies you watched, so maybe you should watch the next one which you didn't watch, but Joel rated like 10 stars. Right, so you can go both ways, like the item way or the like person way.
But you actually do stuff like, you know, like either like get recommendations that are like you probably wouldn't like, but like will challenge you, or like be matched with like a person that you would like struggle to like match up with, but then you're like where there's like opportunity for growth, like because this is definitely something that's like social networks right now are not doing.
Yeah, right. The serendipity, I guess, right? Like you don't just want to train the algorithm on your own data and just always get the same things. Like on Netflix, maybe it's most common, where they just recommend you the same stuff you watched again. And you could say that sort of the Web3 way, like in Web 2, there would be one company and they would run the algorithm on their own data, like Netflix. But maybe you also watch Chinese movies, right? And you have rated movies on Douban, and Netflix never knows that you actually like Chinese movies. They think you don't like them because you don't watch them on Netflix. So like Web3 enables you to download and upload that data and show your full identity of just, instead of just like the Western movies, right?
Yeah, but I guess what I was trying to get at is more like, you know, I can show it my full preferences, and it can see like, oh, this thing is completely outside of like of Joel's preferences. So it will give me that just to like challenge me, like, you know, expand my perspectives. But it will find kind of the right things that you know, is like challenging, but not like completely, I would say, see as like complete bullshit.
Yeah. Which maybe you don't want for movies, but probably you want for social media or like news or information, right? Because you want to learn new things. You don't want to look at the same things on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. I think we've been on for an hour, and I actually need to jump, but thanks for joining, everyone. It's a really cool bunch of presentations and demos. So thanks for everyone who joined, and I'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Cheers.